Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, today we're cutting straight to the heart of something that's universally painful, deeply draining, and frankly soul eroding. Toxic relationships. We all kind of get the immediate anguish they cause, right? But the real danger, the one that can actually reshape who you are deep down, it often just creeps in so silently. It might start really subtly, like criticism that's dressed up as caring feedback. Or maybe affection that just vanishes, poof, unless you meet these impossible conditions that seem to keep changing. And before you know it, what you thought was love, it just becomes a source of constant anxiety, confusion, and just this deep inner turmoil. But here's where our deep dive today gets, well, truly unsettling. What if the most insidious danger isn't just who the toxic person is? What if it's about the invisible forces within you that somehow keep drawing you into these kinds of patterns again and again? We've pulled together some really insightful research here, psychological studies, deep dives into attachment theory, all aiming to unpack those hidden dynamics. Our mission today really is to shed some light on the why this magnetic pull towards what ultimately causes so much harm.
That's such a critical distinction to make right at the start. And it's essential we're clear. This isn't about assigning blame, not at all. This is really about profound self-awareness. It's about empowerment. Our goal here is to help you see let's say, the intricate internal dynamics that might be at play, to truly understand these patterns, and crucially, to give you the knowledge, the tools maybe, to choose a different path forward. We're going to look closely at how your inner world might be, well, unknowingly attracting the very thing you least desire, and importantly, how you can decisively break that cycle.
Okay, so let's unpack this first core idea because it comes up right away in the sources as a powerful warning. Let's call it the invisible magnet of negativity. Our deep dive into various studies points to this fascinating, almost paradoxical truth. If you find yourself consistently dwelling on negativity, maybe it's leftover pain from heartbreak, maybe unresolved trauma, maybe just this pervasive low self-worth, or even a deep fear of being alone. Research suggests you're not just struggling inside, you're actually broadcasting a kind of subtle, invisible signal.
Yeah, it's like an invisible perfume, as one source really vividly puts it. And toxic individuals, well, they seem to have this almost uncanny radar for it. They are drawn to unhealed pain, honestly, like moths to a flame. The core mechanism here is quite striking when you look at it. We don't really attract what we want consciously. We attract what we are on an unconscious level. So if you're carrying these unresolved emotional wounds, especially as you mentioned ones from childhood, you might be subconsciously drawn to people whose energy kind of resonates with that pain. It matches it. You might even mistake this for intense chemistry, right? Like, wow, this connection is so powerful.
Right, that instant spark.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the research is pretty clear on this. It's often actually your pain recognizing itself in someone else.
That distinction feels really, really important because it helps explain why some people see those red flags waving and just, turn around and walk away, no problem, while others, maybe without even realizing it, seem to run straight towards them. It's not some kind of personal failing. It's this invisible magnet at work, powerfully influencing our choices without us even knowing. And speaking of these invisible influences, this pull often starts subtly, but its roots, they dig deep, like right back into our earliest experiences. Which brings us neatly to how our very first understanding of love, learned in childhood, forms this crucial blueprint for all our future relationships. This idea of the blueprint of love, childhood trauma's enduring echo.
Right. And if we zoom out a bit, the implications of this childhood blueprint are just profound.
Yeah.
If those earliest experiences of love, particularly with parents or caregivers, were, say, inconsistent or conditional, or maybe even absent altogether, your subconscious might tragically learn to equate love with pain, or with unpredictability, or with constant effort. And this fundamental programming, this blueprint, it can then lead individuals to continually, almost compulsively, chase unavailable partners, or manipulative ones. Why? Because on an unconscious level, it simply mirrors your earliest emotional environment. It feels familiar.
Familiar, even if it's painful.
Exactly. Think about it. If you had to constantly work to earn love as a child, if affection felt like a reward you only got after jumping through endless hoops, well, you might now, as an adult, subconsciously seek out partners who make you jump through those very same emotional hoops all over again. It can feel almost natural, can't it? Chasing after someone who withholds affection, who seems distant.
Yeah, the chase itself becomes the focus.
Precisely. And then, when you finally get that little crumb of approval, that fleeting moment of connection, oh, it can feel like such a huge reward. Like you finally won. It seems to validate all your effort. But here's the stark warning from the research. This pattern just keeps you stuck. You end up endlessly reliving that childhood pain in your adult relationships, chasing a ghost, really. It prevents you from finding what healthy, stable love actually looks like.
It's a cycle that, yeah, if we don't become aware of it, can just tear things down, relationship after relationship, piece by painful piece. And this destructive cycle, it's often made worse by another insidious factor we found. Let's call it the erosion of self. How dwelling on negativity weakens boundaries. Our research really highlights how constant negative self-talk, those thoughts, I'm not good enough, nobody could really love me, I'm just fundamentally flawed. It's like you're basically handing toxic people a detailed map, a roadmap straight to your deepest insecurities.
Exactly right. If you genuinely deep down believe you're unworthy, you will inevitably tolerate disrespect that you absolutely should not. Things you'd tell a friend never to put up with.
Yeah.
If you live with this deep, paralyzing fear of abandonment, you'll likely cling to a toxic relationship, even when it's causing you immense pain, because the thought of being alone feels worse. And if you're trapped in these cycles of guilt or shame, maybe from past mistakes, or just this free-floating sense of being bad, you might start rationalizing the pain. You convince yourself it's simply the price you have to pay for connection. Which brings us to the critical issue of boundaries. People carrying unhealed emotional wounds often struggle with setting and maintaining clear, firm boundaries.
Right, they feel porous almost.
Yeah, exactly. And toxic partners, they don't just stumble upon this vulnerability. They actively test your limits constantly. They push a little, see if there's pushback. If there isn't, they push further and further. And the critical danger here, the real warning, is that before you know it, you find yourself living in this constant survival mode. You're perpetually adjusting yourself, your needs, your thoughts, your entire being, just trying to avoid conflict or punishment or withdrawal of affection.
It's exhausting.
Utterly exhausting. Your sense of self just starts to fade, your dreams get smaller, and tragically, you can even forget who you were before this relationship began.
It's such a gradual loss, isn't it? Almost imperceptible day by day until one day you look in the mirror and
And speaking of these unseen forces that can subtly steer us, our deep dive also brought us back to Carl Jung's really profound concept of the shadow. Now, many of us have heard of the shadow, right? It's those suppressed parts of ourselves, our fears, our anger, our shame, our pain, the traits we deem unacceptable or unlikable. But what's truly unsettling, and what the research we looked at really underscores, is just how actively this unconscious shadow can end up choosing our partners for us. It's like this unseen hand, Jung's shadow in the danger of unconscious desires. The really unsettling truth here is that when we don't confront this shadow, when we keep it locked away, we don't just deny it exists, we unconsciously project it onto other people. And often, terrifyingly often, we find ourselves drawn, magnetically drawn, to people who actually embody the very parts of ourselves we've pushed away or rejected. It's fascinating and a bit scary how concretely this can manifest in relationships. So that partner who seems incredibly charming on the surface, but has this undercurrent of cruelty, they might actually be reflecting your own hidden anger. Maybe anger you were never allowed to express. Or perhaps a suppressed desire for control that you find uncomfortable acknowledging in yourself. Or think about that emotionally distant lover, the one you keep trying to reach.
Yeah, the unavailable one.
Right. They might be mirroring the parts of you that have emotionally shut down, maybe as a protective mechanism learned long ago. The attraction in these cases feels incredibly powerful, almost magnetic. It's so easy to mistake it for some kind of deep soul-level connection, a destined meeting.
Right. It must be fate.
Exactly. But the warning from depth psychology is clear. It's not a soul connection. It's a warning. It's basically your unconscious waving a huge red flag, trying desperately to get your attention, forcing you, in a way, to finally confront what you've been denying within yourself. And if we connect this to some of the deeper psychological mechanisms involved, well, when your shadow remains unconscious, hidden from your awareness, it has this powerful unseen control over your behavior and definitely over your attractions. You end up choosing partners not based on genuine love or shared values or healthy compatibility, on emotional familiarity. Your unconscious mind, in this really misguided attempt to heal old wounds, tries to recreate the same painful dynamics from your past. It's done with this futile hope that this time, maybe with this person, the outcome will be different. You'll finally get the love or validation you missed out on. Psychology calls this repetition compulsion.
Repetition compulsion.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the stark reality is, this process doesn't lead to healing. It just keeps you stuck in a painful, draining loop, reinforcing the very wounds you're desperately trying to escape.
And this loop, as we've kind of touched upon, often has its roots way back, deep in the echoes of the past, parental wounds that whisper in adulthood. The sources we examine really highlight this connection. If your parents growing up were maybe critical, distant, emotionally unavailable, perhaps even abusive, you might internalize that treatment, not as something about them, but as a reflection of your own worth. You essentially grow up with this subconscious, deeply ingrained belief that, well, love always comes with pain, or that love is inherently tied to some kind of suffering or struggle or earning.
Absolutely. And this early programming, it manifests so clearly in adult relationships. It shows up as this unconscious draw towards partners who, well, echo these same traits. Again, it's not because it's healthy or fulfilling. It's because at a really deep, almost primal level, it simply feels like home.
Wow, feels like home, even if home was difficult.
Exactly. It's a warped sense of familiarity, and it can be incredibly difficult to recognize, let alone break free from. This also connects really powerfully to another common pattern, this deep, often subconscious need to fix people, especially emotionally unavailable or broken partners.
The rescuer role.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It often mirrors a role you might have played in your childhood. Perhaps you were the caretaker for a parent, the family fixer, the peacekeeper, always trying to manage everyone else's emotions. You might have learned that your value came from fixing things, from trying to earn love by managing chaos or taking care of others' needs. But here's the hard truth, a really crucial warning we need to underscore. Toxic people generally don't get fixed by your love or effort. Instead, as one source bluntly puts it, they feed on your need to fix them.
Oof.
Yeah. It perpetuates the cycle, it drains you completely, and it leaves you feeling exhausted, resentful, and ultimately unfulfilled.
Okay, so given these incredibly powerful forces, many of them unconscious, deeply rooted, how on earth do we break this cycle? This feels like the most important question. And that's where we need to shift now, towards a call to action. Because understanding these patterns, really seeing them, that's the absolutely crucial first step towards self-protection and change. So this next section is all about empowerment. It's about actionable steps drawn directly from the pathways to healing outlined in the research we've looked at.
Exactly. Breaking free from this magnetic pull towards toxicity. It requires a conscious, methodical effort to confront these deeply ingrained dynamics. It's work, but it's possible. So first, you have to face your inner world. Healing really begins when you gather the courage to start questioning your patterns. Honestly, ask yourself the hard questions. Why do I keep ending up in relationships that feel this painful? What unhealed part of me am I trying to prove something to? Or what am I desperately trying to heal through my partners? Second, and this takes ongoing effort, you must actively challenge negative beliefs. You need to identify and then consciously work to replace those old, self-defeating thoughts. Things like, I'm just unlovable, or I always mess things up, or this is all I deserve. Replace them with empowering truths, even if they feel awkward at first. Say them to yourself. I deserve love without pain. I am worthy of kindness, respect, and consistent affection. My needs are valid. Third, and this is absolutely crucial, set firm boundaries. Understand that boundaries aren't about being mean or pushing healthy people away. They're fundamentally about protecting your peace, protecting your energy, protecting your very sense of self. And here's a powerful warning sign, almost like an infallible litmus test we found mentioned. Toxic people hate boundaries. Why?
Because they lose control.
Exactly. They lose control over you. And that reaction, that pushback against your boundary, that is your signal that you are doing something profoundly right for yourself. Fourth, consider exploring inner child work. This involves reconnecting in a safe way, perhaps with a therapist, with that younger version of yourself, the one who was hurt, who internalized those painful blueprints about love and worth. It's about validating their pain, acknowledging what they went through, and reminding them, and therefore your present self, that they are safe now, that you're not that powerless child anymore. You have agency. You have choices. Fifth, and this is deep work, integrate your shadow. Remember Jung's concept. Don't reject your darkness, your perceived flaws, your anger, your fear, your shame. Don't try to pretend they don't exist. Instead, the work is to understand them, accept them as part of your whole self. Bring them into the light of your awareness so they stop unconsciously running the show in your life, especially in your attractions. This, the sources strongly suggest, is where real transformation begins, when you own all parts of yourself. Sixth, another vital warning, one that cannot be overstated. Don't confuse chemistry with compatibility.
Yes. The butterflies.
The butterflies,
Yeah.
right? Just because someone gives you that intense feeling, those butterflies in your stomach, that immediate grellicizing, it doesn't automatically mean they are good for you or that the connection is healthy. Sometimes, often in the patterns we're discussing, those intense butterflies are actually a trauma response. into your nervous system, recognizing a familiar, albeit dangerous, pattern. It's an alarm bell, not necessarily a sign of true love or genuine sustainable connection. It's the pull of the familiar, painful past. And finally, number 7, and perhaps this is the most challenging shift for many, choose peace over passion. Or maybe choose peace alongside healthy passion. Healthy, mature love, the kind that sustains and nourishes, it generally feels calm, stable, deeply secure. It's not typically chaotic, volatile, or like a constant emotional roller coaster.
It shouldn't feel like hard work all the time.
Exactly. If your relationship perpetually feels like a war zone, like a constant battle, you're fighting just for basic affection, validation, or peace. It's not love. As one of the core psychological texts we reviewed puts it so incredibly succinctly, it's a wound trying to find a place to bleed, looking for somewhere familiar to reenact its pain.
Wow. That's a powerful and truly sobering thought to end on, isn't it? And it brings us to our final and maybe the most critical warning we want to leave you with today. Toxic relationships don't just damage your life temporarily. They don't just cause pain. They reshape your identity. The longer you stay immersed in them, the more you can start to forget who you truly were before it all began. You slowly, insidiously begin to internalize the disrespect, the criticism, the gaslighting, the emotional unavailability, all the pain. And you can actually start to believe that this eroded, anxious, diminished version of yourself, that's all you are, that's all you're worth. But please, hear this loud and clear because it's perhaps the most important lie you need to dismantle. Pain is not love. Drama is not depth. Chaos is not chemistry. You absolutely must stop romanticizing the things that wound you.
The hard truth, the one that really resonates as a core message throughout all the research and insights we've explored in this deep dive, is essentially this. As long as you continue dwelling on unaddressed pain from the past, as long as you keep avoiding your own shadow aspects, as long as you carry those unhealed childhood wounds without tending to them, you will, regrettably likely, continue to attract toxic love or at least be drawn to it. It will keep feeling familiar. But, and this is crucial, this isn't some kind of life sentence. It's not a curse you're doomed to repeat forever. Think of it instead as an invitation.
An invitation.
Yes, an invitation to courageously turn inward. An invitation to finally face the darkness, the pain, the patterns that reside within you. And most importantly, it's an invitation to consciously choose differently, to actively break the pattern, maybe for the first time.
So what really stands out to you listening right now, for me, it's this profound insight that came up again and again in our research. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you unconsciously believe you deserve.
It's the core of it.
So the empowering challenge we want to leave you with today is this. Start believing you deserve better, not just saying it, but truly believing it deep in your bones, with every fiber of your being. And then go and become the kind of person through healing, through boundary setting, through self-awareness, become the kind of person who would only accept better. Because only then, the research suggests, will you truly stop inviting your old wounds to choose your partners for you. And you can finally start choosing love that actually heals, uplifts, and protects you. Love that feels like peace, not war.